I'd like to again say good afternoon to everyone. I'm just really excited to be back again this week to share information with you about the status of our children. My name is Dr. Willie Miles. I am the president of Dr. Willie Miles Children Foundation located here in Atlanta, Georgia. For those who are first time followers, I do want to share with you that our mission really is very, very simple. Is to make children our priority. And everything that we do is going to make children our priority. So every program we have, every Instagram Live, which is called Let's Talk About It, is going to focus on children. You know, it's sort of my belief that our children are in a lot of trouble because there's not really been a concentrated focus. We have many providers throughout the state of Georgia, and we have many providers across the country who are providing a plethora of services. But oftentimes, as a provider, we're really trying to make ends meet. We're trying to make sure we get the funding, and some of us will do anything for the funding. You know, we'll board our mission just to make sure we get funding to provide services. And I'm not knocking that. I'm simply saying that I think there needs to be organizations that really say at this point, you know, we believe in families, we believe in the total unity of families, but our focus is on children. And that's what Dr. Willie Miles Children Foundation is really all about. Our goal is to focus on children and to have not only to focus on children, but to have the adults understand the importance of children and also the importance of child rearing practices. I do want to take this time, if I forgot last week, I don't know how I forgot this, but to salute our fathers. It was Father's Day last weekend, so happy Father's Day to all the wonderful fathers out there and all the wonderful fathers who are doing great things for their children, and thank God for the fathers who are at home, who are being the models they should be, and realizing that they are really and they should be the focus of their children's lives. I do want to share also that our organization has taken a very big leap, and that leap is to establish the Office of Social Justice. And we established this Office of Social Justice as a response to a lot of the crises that have been happening with the killings of Black men and Black people. I think we all agree that we don't have to have a justification. I think the data says that enough. And so our plan is not to address the social justice from a inclusion and a diversity perspective, because we've had inclusion programs for many, many years, and we've had other programs and multicultural programs, and just trying to teach people how to get along and how to accept other people and how to be tolerant. With our strategy, our goal goes a bit farther. We simply believe that it's not just about teaching how to get along and teaching diversity, because that's something we ought to be used to by now. Our strategy is to give people a historical perspective on what has happened in this country and how Black people have gotten to where they are, and they're not the ones to blame. And for a matter of fact, there's not really a blame. It's really about resolving the issues. So part of our Office of Social Justice will focus on community awareness. It will focus on training people who don't look like Black people about Black people. I'm not talking about training that says, oh, you need to become more tolerant. I think that people need to know the story. They need to know the history of how Black people came to America not voluntarily, and over 8 million were lost in the Middle Passage, and how when they arrived these shores, the things that they had to encounter. So I really want to sort of like evoke a sensitivity and an understanding. And one thing that's biblical, it says, in all things get understanding. And when you begin to understand what is happening, you'll have to change. You'll have to change. So again, I'm just very pleased that our board of directors has approved for us to establish the Office of Social Justice. This is also training through town hall meetings. These are virtual town hall meetings. Training for not just police officers, but any person who is considered to be a civil servant and working on behalf of government and working in municipalities, it's going to be important that they all understand how this all happened and how we have to eradicate it quickly, how it has to be eradicated quickly. And it's about changing stereotypes that people have of Black people, particularly Black men, and to change the value. Black men are not valued in this country, and that's why they're killed so haphazardly, and Black children are not valued, and Black people are not valued. And there are many who say, Dr. Miles, guess what? I disagree totally. They are valued. Well, you have a right to your opinion, but I'm simply going by what the facts are and what the data says and what the historical perspective is. So this is not a point to argue about the situation. It is a matter to resolve the situation. And once it's resolved and we stop having Blacks being killed by police officers and killed in their own communities and marginalized, and our children being marginalized, and our children being miseducated, then I will then say success has been achieved and our world will be a much better place. Our world will be a much better place. We're going to launch those trainings starting in September. I do want to share with you that we would love to have funding to do this, but I'm a believer that what I've been asked to do, provisions will be made. So we're going to move forward with or without funding. I just believe that when you do the right thing follows you. Our organization is primarily a donations-only organization. We are not government funded. Can we be government funded? Yes, maybe one day we will be, and we're looking toward that. But I just want to make sure that we're not selling ourselves out to a system that doesn't agree with us. So I want to make sure that we are, if we accept funding, they agree with what we're doing and they buy into what we're doing and they become a partner of it, not just because it's fashionable, but because it is necessary. So keep your ears and eyes open for the Office of Social Justice that will be started in September. I do want to say that all of these announcements can also be found on Dr. Willie Miles Children's Foundation website. I'm also now proud to announce that all the trainings that we have on Let's Talk About, or all the sessions that we have on Let's Talk About It, can now be found on our website. I am just so excited about that. All the trainings that we now have and have had in the past, you can go to our website, go to Let's Talk About It, and you'll actually be able to see those trainings, those hour trainings, and we have many of them. So from this day forward, we're going to actually make sure that we post. We're going to make sure that we post all of the trainings. I thought it was kind of interesting that as we began to talk about children, it's kind of interesting that our viewership kind of lowers when we talk about children. But when we talk about dramatic things, of course, we have a high viewer rate. I'm going to teach this. I'm going to talk about children. I'm going to talk about knowing your child developmentally, because I think it's critical. There are many books out about what children learn, and many books out about what they should be doing developmentally, physically, and socially, and educationally. But I want to do a step-by-step process so that our viewers can have the knowledge. This is going to be a four-part series, dealing with our children, understanding our children developmentally, and that's our goal for the next 4 weeks. Now, of course, if something earth-shattering comes up and we have to change our programming, we're going to do that. But thus far, we have the training scheduled for the next 4 weeks, and hopefully by then, you will know what to expect from your children from the day they're born until they become a young adult. And you'll begin to see signals of their development, and you'll begin to know when they're not developing appropriately. And more importantly, you'll begin to understand your role as a parent or as a caregiver and how you help shape those children. Oftentimes we as parents think that, having a child is about just feeding them and taking care of them, and they'll grow into be something, and we leave that up to other people. We leave that up to the schools and the daycare centers. But really, how you shape your child's values is a parental responsibility. It is a parental responsibility that I kind of think we've not taken very seriously. I think we kind of like handed it off to other people to do that for us. And thus, when our children start doing things that we don't understand, we say, where they get that from. We say where they get that from. And they got it from the person that you allowed to help shape their values. The child's values come from their homes. The child values should come from their home. And so tonight, we're going to, but before I get to this, also, we're going to offer training certificates. I know many foster parents are tuning in to us, and they're asking, do I get certificates? Many of you all have asked, and we've not gotten those to you. But please understand, I have a record. We have a record of everyone who's requested a certificate, and we'll get those to you. And many of your districts throughout the state of Georgia, they've asked you to simply get a photo shot of the training and the date, and they will accept that. So if that's the case, you're good. And if that's not the case, you can go to our website and see all the trainings. And the website is going to be great because you can go there and look at those some of those topics over and over and over again. And as we continue, we'll be having more controversial topics about our children. So I need you all to have some open minds and not to be so judgmental, because our goal is to make sure you understand what's happening in your child's life, and so that you don't have any surprises. So tonight I'm going to start off with infancy. Infancy. This is sort of our format. I'm going to have an open chat with y'all tonight. For instance, I will say, if there's anyone who wants to make a comment, join me in the box. All you have to do is go to be on Instagram and say, I want to join you live. I will then push a button which will allow you to be online with me, and our audience will see you, and you can make your comments, and we'll have a conversation. So again, when I say I'm going to now open the box up for comments, all you have to do is, I want to join the conversation live. I will click accept, and you'll be on live. When I take you off, then another person can do the same thing, click on, and we'll have that conversation. So it went well last week, and I'm very sure it's going to go extremely well this week. I do want to take the opportunity to thank all the behind-the-scene persons who are making this possible. And there are quite a few people who are working behind the scenes to make sure that we air this, and to make sure that it's proper, and make sure that we're coming through well. And I want to thank one of our major producers out of New York City, who's making sure that that the filming is right, making sure that the flyers go out, to make sure that that what we do is attractive and it's professional. I'd like to thank Leon for my son, who helps me out periodically to make sure that things are well with us. And I most certainly want to thank my board of directors, who have given me free reign to have this kind of platform to talk to our audience about things that affect our community, and hopefully not only affect our community, that we can effectively cause change and have people to be better and to lead better lives. I am very excited to start out talking about infancy, and I'll try to do this slowly, and I will ask y'all also to feel free to ask questions, and you can type in the questions and I'll be more than happy to answer those. But what I find is so interesting, well, before I get into that, my background is early childhood. My master's degree is in early childhood development with a specialization on infants. So I've studied infants from a behavioral perspective. My full background deals with child development, period. So I've run child development centers for almost 15 years. I've run programs that help children from birth. I've run infant centers that held children who lacked the will to live, and those were babies who had been abused. And I've operated centers where there have been abused children, and simply having those children to realize that there is a life and there's nurturing and there's love for them. And I've operated programs and where we've dealt with children who are teenagers who are going through difficulty. I operated programs that dealt with the LGBTQA community and youth, and working with those children's parents, having them to understand the issues that gay children have. And I've worked with young adults in understanding who they are, where they're going in life, and so forth. So my background is there's a full depth of information, or some people say full breadth of information, whichever you choose. I do want to share with you that I do consider myself knowledgeable in those areas. We're going to start out with infants. You know, it's kind of interesting that people have babies and they have no idea of what they should be looking out for. And they wait for a doctor to tell them what they should be looking out for. You know, I want to take this very slow because it's very, very serious. And it's serious because what you have as a baby then transpires to what you have created and possibly created as an adult. As an adult. So I'm going to start with babies first. Jean Piaget, who's a Swiss scientist, said that there are 4 stages of development. And he has broken those stages out in different categories. He has a stage of development, he has a Piaget cognitive stage of development that deals with language and math acquisition. He has one that deals with human development. But the key to Jean Piaget's studies states that there are 4 stages of development of human beings. And he also states that before you die, you should have gone through those 4 stages. And you can very quickly tell when a person has not gone through those stages. So the first stage, for my educators, so I want you to stay with me now because I'm going to be saying something which may sound conflictual to what you are being taught. But there are different stages of development based upon Jean Piaget. The first stage is called egocentrism. And in some readings, it's called sensory motor. But I want to deal with egocentrism. The first stage is called egocentrism. And the base word to it is, of course, ego. Ego. And I think we all know what ego is. Ego is an exaggerated need for yourself. It's an exaggerated need for yourself, which says that I am the center of the world and I want everyone to cater to me. When I cry, I want you to make sure I'm fed. When I'm wet, I want to make sure that you dry me because I don't have the capabilities to do that. When I'm in pain, I want you to figure out what the pain is, and I'm going to cry until you figure that out. What's very interesting about the egocentrism stage, the child views himself as the center of the world. And babies are the center of the world. Babies are the center of the world. They are born here with not having very few capabilities to care for themselves. They can't feed themselves. They can't walk. They're trying to learn to talk. So they are here to learn. Now, there's a difference in what we've been taught historically. We have been taught that babies are not active learners. And I say babies, I'm talking about infants, that's from, of course, from birth until like to 9 to 12 months, that they're not active learners, that they just hang around and they pick up on small things. It is very important that you understand that babies start learning in vitro. Babies can hear the music that's being played while the mother is pregnant. Babies can hear all the cursing sounds while the mother's pregnant. The baby can feel all the nervous tensions that's caused while the mother is pregnant. The baby can feel the fears and the dangers while the mother is pregnant. The baby experiences hunger in vitro. That's before being born. They've experienced hunger, and they also experience neglect before the baby's even born. And you're saying, well, Dr. Miles, how is that possible? How can they experience all this before they're born? Because they're connected to the mother, and the mother is the sole provider of the nutrients. She's the sole provider of care. She's the sole provider of nurturing and safety during this very, very volatile stage. The mother is responsible. Now, when I say responsible, I don't mean totally responsible, because she has a husband, boyfriend, significant other, and family members who are supposed to help her develop this child and help the child is born healthy. The child is born underweight. Why is the child born underweight? Because we've not done something that we should have done while the child was in vitro. Why is the child born with a disorder? Sometimes it's because we've not always done what we're supposed to do with the nutrients and prenatal care. So I'm sharing this with you so you can understand that it's more to just having a baby than having a baby. Now, what's amazing, though, is that once that child is born, that child is now facing a different world from what he was used to. Inside his mother, he was inside being taken care of. He was in a very warm place, a very nurturing place. It was a very safe place. Now he's born. What parents need to know is that babies are active learners. Babies are active learners, and they process information very, very, very quickly. I'm going to stay on the stage of egocentrism. When infants are not provided for, they develop a sense of mistrust. Mother allows the baby to stay wet all night long. The next day, the baby's still crying. The baby has not been changed. The baby then says, well, I'm not going to cry anymore because I'm miserable. Nobody's going to take care of me. The baby cries for food. Nobody provides the food. Mother, parents, or caregivers provide minimal amount of food. The baby says, I want more. Nobody gives the baby more. The baby says, okay, I'll just sit here and cry and grunt a few minutes and just realize that these people don't care. The baby then begins to have pains. And somebody says, just let him cry. He'll stop crying soon. The baby then says, no one cares about my pain. So what happens, the child then grows not trusting anyone because no one has provided for his or her immediate care. And you may be saying, Dr. Miles, why are we going through this? This is not a child care class. Well, my thought is it should be. It is my belief that everyone who considers having a child should go through a child development class before they bring a child to this world. They should be understanding what the role of a parent is. They should understand their role in helping develop their child into a healthy, productive human being. They must understand that babies are active learners. They are active learners. So what then happens after the parent has not been responsive? The parent let the baby stays wet. The parent does not respond to the baby, and the parent hollers at the baby, and some families use profanity at the babies, use profanities. So what the baby is seeing is a very angry and hostile person. And so then he grows up responding to a very angry and hostile person, which is supposed to be the person who is taking care of him. According to Piaget, development cannot be created, but it can be enhanced. Development can't be created, but it can be enhanced. And enhancement means that I know where my child is, So I'm going to do all the things I need to do to ensure that he gets through this stage of development healthy. That I'm going to do everything that I can to ensure that my child gets through everything that he or she needs healthy. Question that I have for y'all. How many of you all have met an adult who thinks that they are the center of the world and thinks that everybody should provide for them? Do you know anyone like that? They think that the food should be prepared for them. They think that someone should clean up behind them. They think that everything they ask for ought to be granted. And if it's not granted, they pout. They think that they are the center of the world. When you meet an adult who behaves that way, what it tells me is that that adult missed the egocentristic stage. What it tells me is that when he or she was a child, family failed to respond to him. And according to Jean Piaget, before you die, you shall go through those stages. So here we are now having a 21-year-old or 25-year-old male who's incapable of taking care of himself and totally depends upon someone else to take care of him. Think about that for a second. We have a 21-year-old or a 25-year-old, and sometimes older, who believes that the world should be taking care of him, that people should cook his food for him, that someone ought to be washing his clothes for him, that someone ought to be cleaning the house for him, that someone ought to be serving him or her, and that they're the center of the world. We all know someone like that. And when I meet people like that, I go to the conclusion they miss the egocentrism stage of development. Then I began to talk to them about their background. I asked, were you given away when you were born? Are you adopted? Were you given to grandma to be taken care of? Did mom leave you somewhere and someone found you? Those are all the symptoms. And usually what happens when I ask those questions of adults who are going through that, they say, oh my God, I never thought about that. My mother didn't raise me. My mother's sister raised me. And I didn't get the nurturing that the other children got. I hope you all are understanding what I'm saying is that when you miss the stage of development, Jean Piaget states that you shall go through that stage before you die. I used to oftentimes wonder, why do I see older people still trying to act young? There's nothing wrong with being young in spirit. I'm talking about, older adults who dress like teenagers and older adults who still act like teenagers and older adults who emotionally are like teenagers. What it means is that they missed a stage of development. And the question is, how do we get that stage of development back? Well, we don't get it back. It's supposed to happen naturally. And it may happen when you're 50, but you're going to find yourself acting like a 16-year-old at age 50. Acting like a 15-year-old at age 50. And people, it all started from day one, egocentrism. That means that the person was not provided for. Oftentimes, parents want to, treat the baby like he can't learn, calling him Pookie and Boo Boo and all those kinds of names. And the child grows up thinking his name is Bookie and Poo Poo. Well, that is not that child's name. And he goes to school, he doesn't even know his real name. And then you want to wonder why they want to keep him back. It amazes me that parents don't see the importance of training their children and educating their children from the very beginning. Versus buying all these games for them. I'm talking about still now from infancy throughout 12 months. And I'll even go to 18 months. We play all these games and none of them are educational. Why do you think that baby cribs have all these floating things that they can watch? You think it's for beauty. No, it's not for beauty. What it is for is we want to watch and see if that child's eye can follow an object. And it tells us whether or not that child is developing normally. We want to know if he can see the object. We want to know if he reaches for the object. We want to know if he smiles for the object. So the games or the toys you buy for the crib is not games and toys. It may be games and toys for the baby, but it really is an assessment for the parents. The parents need to know if the child can reach for that toy. The parent needs to know if the child smiles the toy. If there is a toy above that child and the child never smiles, that signals to us that there's a problem or a potential problem. If there's a toy that's spinning above that baby's bed and he never reaches for it, that tells us something may be off key. Or if the baby's laying in the crib and he never turns, he just lays in one position, that tells us that something could potentially wrong. The problem we have with many of our parents is they want to wait until the child is 6 years old before they start asking questions. Why he ain't talking now? Because you're not talking to him. Why he ain't walking? Because you pick him up and carry him on your hips everywhere. Because it's expedient for you. Why he don't know how to get along with other kids? Because he's watched how you get along with people. People, it's development. Your children at a very early age replicate the behaviors they see with you. I share with our audience on many occasions that the child's personality is set by age 3. I'm not going to go there yet because I'm going to deal with that in series 2, 3, and 4. I want to stick with the infancy part. I want to stick with what are we doing when the baby is not doing anything. I want to know, do we pick the child up and do we constantly tell the baby, we love you? Do you constantly tell the baby his name? Do you constantly tell the baby what your desires are for him or for her? That you're going to become a lawyer, you'll become the best person in the world because you are wonderful. And you're instilling all of these wonderful things in the child versus, I don't know who your daddy is. All that kind of foolishness. And then we want to then wonder why our kids grow up not liking us as parents. This is a very sensitive area for me because I just don't get why parents don't understand the importance of early beginnings. They understood how to get the child, but they don't want to further their knowledge about how to raise them appropriately and how to create positive individuals. This is the whole thing about development. It's the whole thing about life. You are the child's first teacher. Stop relegating your child's teaching to the school teachers. Stop relegating. Stop giving the authority to someone else to help shape your child's values. Stop placing your young children, your babies, in places that are not healthy, where people are smoking marijuana, where people are drinking and there's loud music and all of that. Those are adult things. Those are not for children. And so what happens, you want to try to figure out why the child wants to smoke and he's only 3. And I'll share this with some of my audience, the audience here. Some of our parents are actually allowing their children to actually smoke marijuana at age 3. And when I say that, I'm talking about They think it's fun. They think it's a game. You can see it on YouTube and all the other stuff. They think it's all games and fun, but what they're doing, they're going to create a child who does not value himself, and a child who does not value himself would not value an institution and would not value parents and would not see himself or herself as being worthy. We have got to slow down and understand that there's more to having children than just giving birth. What we've learned, Jean Piaget, Swiss scientist, states there are 4 stages of development. The first one is called egocentrism, and for those educators that are on, I will also say sensory motor. And sensory motor, the base word is sensory, is sense, which means that our children learn through senses. Do you realize your child can learn any language by age 3? Any language by age 3. Their brains are just that powerful. Their brains are ready to absorb, and they can process anything. So why is it then that we wait until the child is 11 to talk about how are your grades in school? What are you learning? Parents, you are the child's first teacher from day one. You are the one who sets the values and the tones for your child's education and to set the tone for your child's personality. You are the one who helps set that tone before you've even given birth. I would say I would be very cautious as to where I would hang around while I'm pregnant. I would be very cautious as to who I hung around while I was pregnant. I would make sure that the environment I am would be totally a sterile background. And sterile simply means that it's clean, it's wholesome, it is supportive, it is nurturing, it is loving. Because that's the kind of child I want to produce. I don't want my child to be a nervous wreck while he's still inside of me, then he comes out with nerve issues and neurological issues. Is having a drink of Hennessy that important to you that you can possibly damage your child? Is smoking weed during pregnancy that important to you where you can mess your child's life up? Is doing meth during pregnancy, is it that important to you where you will mess your child up medically, possibly for the rest of his life? Well, it sounds a bit selfish to me, and I just don't think that selfish people ought to have children. Because one can't be selfish, or should not be selfish, when they have a responsibility to make children, and their children now, their priority. The values, I'm not telling you what kind of values you should have, but the values are, in my household, while my children are here, it's going to be peaceful. In my household, while my children are here, there'll be no profanity. In my household, where my children are, if you don't have anything positive to offer, I'm sorry, you're just not welcome here. Family or no family. Because at the end of the day, I am the one who's going to have to deal with the results of negativity. And the results could mean getting him out of jail, posting bond, and folks, it's just that serious. We all want to blame everyone else for our children's dysfunctionalities because of ourselves, instead of ourselves. We want to blame everybody. He's this way because his daddy's no good. Oh, he's this way because I didn't have the money. We're messing our children's lives up when we think that way. Is there a way to get around that? The answer is yes. Want the best for your child. Want the best for your child, and tell yourself, I do not want my child to grow up at 21, 25, 35, thinking that the world ought to be providing for him or her. And you know what happens also? Oftentimes, people will create children who think that way and then want to admonish them because they're prostituting. Well, guess what? They're prostituting because their needs have to be met, and they're depending upon someone else to meet their needs. Oh, where did he learn selling drugs from? Well, he learned it because he has needs that have to be met, and he doesn't know of any other means to meet his needs. So, as a parent, it's critically important that you engage with your children. It's critically important that you see the importance of your child's life. And it's critically important that you understand the 4 stages of development and your role in each of those stages. Tonight, I dealt with egocentrism, sensory motor. Sensory motor is that the child uses his senses to learn. That's why children put everything in their mouth. You know, when you have children who are toddlers, you have to childproof your house because everything on the floor goes straight to their mouth. They are learning. Everything on the floor, everything on the tables goes straight to their mouth. And you're always saying, no, 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 when your house should have been childproof from the very beginning. I hope you all understand why I'm saying that there should be some training classes for anyone who wants to have a child. Because it's not only going to help the child, it's going to help the world. I want to open the opportunity for any of you all to now join me in the box. If you'd like to have a comment, a live comment, all you have to do is say, I want to join, push, I want to join the live discussion. I will accept it and we'll have a discussion. You can do that now. All right, it seems like no one wants to be in the box tonight. I'm not trying to scare you all out of the box. I'm trying to have you all come to the box because I think we all know people who have not developed the way we think they should have. Not just people, even our children. Some of our children do not have the skills they need that we should have been able to teach them. They just don't have it. And I want to applaud the parents who make their priority. I want to applaud the parents who set up that nurturing environment and the parents who understand that the first stage of the child's life is called egocentrism and that we must respond to the child's needs quickly. We must respond to the child's needs quickly, or therefore the child will develop a mistrust. And what happens, he then moves to the next stage, which means that he skipped that stage, which means he skipped the egocentrism stage, which says that, gotta survive, so let me just roll on to the next stage. I'll come back and get sensory motor, get egocentrism later on. There he is, or she is, 25, looking for someone to take care of them. Looking for someone to take care of them. I know you're saying, Dr. Miles, I don't believe that. Them jokers just sorry. Nope. We have failed them. We have failed to meet their needs when they needed us. When they needed us is when they couldn't do anything for themselves. We failed them when they didn't know how to cook. We failed them when they couldn't change their own diapers. You know, I actually witnessed a situation where the child had a diaper on and the diaper was so wet and the child cried, and no one responded. That child proceeded to take the diaper off himself. And the parents thought it was funny. All they're creating is distrust. Distrust. And we all know what it feels like not to trust someone. And when you don't trust someone, it simply means you cannot depend upon them. So parents, let's not create children who can't depend upon us. Let's not create and develop children who are dependent upon somebody else to meet their needs. And let's not create children who marry someone just because they need them. Horrible. I know y'all have heard this before. You all have heard, especially, well, not just especially, but some dudes say, shoot, she need to be able to cook because she can't cook. I ain't marrying her. I ain't marrying no woman who can't cook. Well, I would say I would not marry a man who couldn't cook. I ain't marrying no woman who can't clean. I'd be saying I wouldn't marry a man who cannot clean. I ain't marrying nobody who can't cater to me. I'd be saying I agree. Because relationships are a two-way street. And parents, you find yourself asking yourself, once the child's gotten old, is, how did he get to this point? And parents, ready? Just point back to yourself. You're partially responsible because you did not meet the needs. Not only that, but you didn't set a set of standards for your house, and a set of standards that says, these are the values. These are the values. These are the rules. These are the perimeters. And in this particular home, these are the values that shall be followed until you're able to develop your own values, and it won't be in my house. We have to have a plan for our children. And when we don't have a plan for our children will have a plan for us. And they'll have us as adults, seniors, living miserably. They will have you living miserably. You'll have a 40-year-old still living at home with you, and you're calling him your baby. You created that. You're having a joker who lives in your house, or a jokess, who refuses to work. But you, as the parent who is now a senior, goes to work every day. But you've taken care of your baby who is 45 years old. You created that. You created it. And my thought on that is that if that's how you like to do it, if that's how you like to roll, so shall it be. But I don't think that any human being ought to be denied the right to be self-sufficient, to feel worthy, to feel that they're a contributing member of our society, and to feel independent. When you miss the egocentrism stage, you live thinking that the world owes you something. You want to find a wife who caters to you, or you want to find a husband that caters to you, or you want to find a significant other that caters to you. It all starts at birth. I really hope that I've helped you understand the first stage of development, which is called egocentrism/sensory motor stage. The Swiss scientist who developed these stages, his name is Jean, Jean, and of course the French is Jean Piaget, Piaget, Piaget. If you have some time, look him up, and I'm telling you, he will bless you. He will have you really understand how life develops. By the way, Jean or Jean Piaget is the father of all theorists. So all the other theorists that are around, be it Brunner, be it Gardner, be it Freud, all the rest of those dudes, he was the first one, and all they're doing is embellishing upon what he has said. In other words, they're developing their own theories that adds to what he says. Parents, this is not rocket science. It's not rocket science. You get out of your children exactly what you put into them. Have a great evening. I'm looking forward to seeing y'all next week with part 2 of your children's development, no more surprises. Your children's development, no more surprises. And what we'll talk about is the establishment of the child's character and personality by age 3. Have a great evening. Share with everyone that our foundation is around, that Dr. Willie Miles Children Foundation is around. We are donation supported. I have to say this. They said, Dr. Miles, don't be saying all that stuff. I say, we're not begging people to give us anything. We are asking. I just believe that when a vision is given to me, the divine creator will make provision. So we're doing really good, folk. I want to thank y'all who believe in us, and I am here to help you help your children. Children are our priority.